Some children are raised by silence. Not screaming, not violence. Just silence, the kind that hovers in the corners of every room. The kind that teaches you not to ask. The kind that makes you doubt what you feel. And yet you felt it. Before you had words for it, you could sense when something wasn't right. The pause between your parents' sentences. The sharpness behind the smile. The air thick with tension no one would name. You noticed everything and said nothing. Because what happens to a child who sees what others deny? They go quiet. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important." And that's how it begins, this hidden loneliness. Not because you were left alone, but because your truth had nowhere to go. If you're an intuitive soul, especially the kind we call INFJ, you probably lived two lives. The outer one that smiled, obeyed, blended in, and the inner one that observed, interpreted, saw through people's words to the things they didn't want you to see. And when you tried to speak those things aloud, the world told you, don't be so sensitive, or stop imagining things, so you stopped speaking. Not because you were wrong, but because you learned no one wanted the truth. That's how the intuitive child begins to split. Jung, as a boy, created a secret ritual. He carved a little mannequin out of wood, placed it in a pencil box with a painted stone, and hid it in his attic. He wrote notes to it in a made-up language. It wasn't just a game, it was his sanctuary, a place where his deepest thoughts and feelings could exist without judgment. That's what you were trying to build too, wasn't it? Not a shrine with a mannequin, but a quiet space inside yourself where your feelings could be real. You weren't pretending, you were preserving. Preserving your truth from a world that preferred comfort over clarity. You began to see the cost of honesty. And slowly silence became your survival. While other kids were busy learning the rules of the world, you were learning something else. How to read between the lines. How to hear what wasn't said. How to anticipate emotional storms before the clouds even formed. And maybe, just maybe, you thought everyone was like you. That they felt the pressure behind people's words. That they noticed the slight delay before someone said, "I'm fine." But then you realized, no, they didn't. You were seeing something they didn't want to see or couldn't. And the moment you understood that, your world changed. You stopped bringing your insights forward. You learned to keep your light hidden. Because being right about the things people want to ignore doesn't earn you connection, it earns you distance. So you became two people, the one they could handle, and the one you really were. And that's when the loneliness sets in, not because you're alone, but because the real you has no one to meet. The one who feels deeply, sees clearly, understands quickly, lives behind a mask of what others find acceptable. And yet, despite the silence, despite the distance, something remained. A flicker, a spark. A quiet knowing that never went out, the lantern inside you. It lit your way when no one else could. It helped you survive in a world that didn't want your truth. It stayed even when you tried to dim it. But in a family that mistakes silence for peace, what happens to a child who refuses to go blind? Let's go there. This is how it begins, not with yelling, but with the things that are never said. Not with chaos, but with order so tight it strangles the truth. A family that smiles for guests, but falls silent behind closed doors. A home that looks fine on the outside, but feels off. And if you're that intuitive child, you feel it first, the unspoken rules, the shifting moods. The cold distance wrapped in polite conversation. You can't explain it, but your chest tightens when certain topics come up. Your stomach drops before someone even raises their voice. You know something is wrong long before anyone admits it, and most of the time they never do, so you carry it. And when no one else acknowledges it, you start to wonder, is it me? Am I too sensitive? Am I making this up? Carl Jung once wrote, "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on children than the unlived life of the parent. If your mother gave up her dreams, you felt her bitterness even when she smiled. If your father hid his anxiety behind control, you felt the panic beneath the discipline. You didn't just observe them, you absorbed them. You became the emotional barometer of the house. And the tragedy is no one thanked you for it. Instead, they praised you for being good. Easy, low maintenance. You weren't easy, you were adapting. You were watching the weather inside your home like a survival skill, reading body language, anticipating moods, adjusting your voice so you wouldn't tip the balance. You became the caretaker of harmony before you were even old enough to name it. And that's the invisible weight no one talks about. When a child becomes the emotional container for a family that doesn't have space for truth. You edited your feelings before they became a burden. You hid your tears so no one would call you dramatic. You kept your joys small so others wouldn't feel inadequate. You didn't get quiet because you had nothing to say. You got quiet because no one listened when it mattered. And here's the paradox. The more emotionally responsible you became, the less anyone saw you. They loved the version of you that didn't need anything. And they missed the one who did. So you learned to live between the lines. Smiling when you were sad. Helping when you were hurting. Making others feel safe in the very house where you felt most alone. That's not maturity. That's emotional exile. There's a story Jung once shared about a village in drought. They brought in a rainmaker. He didn't chant or dance. He just sat quietly in a small hut. Days passed. Then came the rain. When they asked what he'd done, he said, "I brought myself into harmony. When I was in harmony, the world followed." That's what you were trying to do as a child. You thought if you could just be enough, calm enough, good enough, small enough, then maybe the people around you would find peace. Maybe the sadness would lift. Maybe the tension would fade. But peace doesn't come from pretending. And harmony that depends on your silence is not harmony at all. So the question becomes, how long can you stay small before something inside you starts to crack? How long can you carry everyone else's pain before your own voice disappears? And when it does, what's left? By the time you reach adolescence, something strange begins to happen. The world starts to celebrate you for all the things you've quietly been doing to survive. They call you wise, insightful, reliable. You've learned to listen when others are in pain, to help when no one asks, to hold everything together. You're the calm one, the one who doesn't need much, the one who never complains. But beneath the surface, there's a truth no one can see. You're not okay, you're exhausted. You're breaking under the weight of the persona you've so carefully crafted, and no one knows. Because the mask is working. It's working so well, in fact, that you begin to forget who you really are underneath. The version of you that people admire, the one who's always there, always calm, always understanding, isn't the real you. It's the version you've learned to become in order to survive a world that demands you take care of everyone else before yourself. Carl Jung described this as the persona, the social mask we wear to meet the expectations of the world. And for someone like you, this mask becomes a finely tuned instrument. You know exactly how to play the role. You listen when others speak, you offer support when they're hurting, you know just what to say to make them feel better. But the cost of wearing that mask is steep. It's a quiet, hidden toll. The more they lean on you, the less you can lean on anyone else. The more they love the version of you that never needs anything, the more you lose touch with the real you. You've built this persona not to deceive, but to protect yourself. To hide the pain, to mask the vulnerability that feels too risky to expose. The truth is, you're afraid of what will happen if people really see you. You're afraid they'll turn away. Afraid that your softness, your sensitivity, your depth will be too much for them to handle, so you keep smiling, you keep helping, you keep pretending. But one day, when you look in the mirror, you don't see yourself anymore. You see the mask, the polite expression, the calm demeanor, the person everyone else wants you to be. And behind those eyes, there's nothing but emptiness. The world sees you as dependable, as strong, as selfless. But you can't even remember what it feels like to be seen for who you really are. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel invisible. And that's the loneliness that no one talks about. The kind that comes not from being alone, but from being seen only for what you give, not who you are. Fernando Pessoa, the Portuguese poet, once said, "I've worn a mask so long I no longer know who's beneath it, and that's the problem." The more you wear the mask, the more you lose track of who you really are. You forget that the very qualities that make you extraordinary, your intuition, your empathy, your depth, are not burdens, they're gifts. But the more the world rewards the mask, the more you hide the light inside you. Because if you don't need anything, no one has to give anything back. And the moment you stop being the strong one, the helpful one, the reliable one, who will you be then? You're tired. Tired of performing, tired of holding the world together, tired of being the person everyone else needs while silently withering away. But you're not broken, you're hiding. And in that hiding, something is slowly dying. You. And when that part of you finally begins to crack, when the mask can no longer hold the weight of your truth, that's when the real work begins. You don't plan for it. You don't see it coming. But one day you wake up to the sound of everything falling apart. It's not loud, not dramatic. It's just a quiet unraveling. It might start with a glance in the mirror or a moment when you realize you can't breathe, even though everything around you is fine. Something shifts inside you and it's terrifying. You thought you were fine. You told everyone you were fine and you believed it too. But underneath, you've been carrying everything for so long that your body can't hold it anymore. The weight of the mask, the weight of being everything for everyone. The weight of silence. This is the moment of collapse. Not from weakness, but from truth. You can't keep pretending anymore. You can't keep being who everyone else needs you to be. You can't hold it together any longer. Carl Jung called this the confrontation with the shadow, the part of you that has been repressed, ignored, denied. For someone like you, who has lived a life of accommodation, of bending to others' needs, your shadow is made up of all the feelings and truths you've buried to keep the peace. The rage, the sadness, the grief, the loneliness, you've been running from them for years. But now they catch up with you, you start to feel it in your bones, in your body, the grief you never allowed yourself to feel. The anger you buried because it wasn't safe to express, the sadness you pushed down because no one could hold it for you. This isn't a dramatic breakdown, it's a quiet, painful unfolding. The moment when everything you've avoided has no place to go but through you. But here's the thing they don't tell you. It's not about falling apart. It's about coming undone. Jung's concept of individuation is all about integrating the parts of yourself you've hidden, denied, or rejected. It's about becoming whole by embracing every part of you, the beautiful and the broken. Not because they are flaws, but because they make you human. The descent is not an ending. It's a return. It's the return to the parts of you that were never allowed to grow. The child inside you that learned to hide. The parts of your soul that still long for connection, for expression, for freedom. When the mask cracks, those parts start to rise, and when you begin to feel them, it's painful, it's messy, but it's necessary. The myth of Inanna is the perfect metaphor for this process. Inanna, the goddess of love and war, descends into the underworld, shedding her crown, her jewels, her robe, everything that made her divine, everything that protected her. She enters the underworld naked, vulnerable, stripped of all pretension. And in that moment of total surrender, she is reborn. You're doing the same thing. You're stripping away everything that kept you in place, the role you played for others, the mask you wore to protect yourself. And when you do that, when you allow yourself to feel what's real, even if it breaks you, you begin to heal. The descent is painful, but from it you will rise. And you won't be the person you thought you were. You'll be the person you were always meant to be. Not broken, not flawless, but whole. And in that wholeness, you'll find the freedom you've been searching for all along. You'll stop hiding, and the world will finally see you. What happens when everything you've worked so hard to keep together begins to break? It's not the kind of break you can see coming. It's quiet, subtle. It doesn't announce itself with loud cries or dramatic tears. It simply happens in those soft, vulnerable moments when you're alone with yourself, when the mask you've been wearing starts to slip and you finally hear the things you've been hiding. You are tired. And in the weariness, something unexpected happens. You begin to notice something you've avoided for so long, the cracks. They were always there, weren't they? The places where the light could get in, the parts of you tried to cover up, to fix, to ignore. You thought those cracks were something to hide, something broken, something you had to fix. But what if you were wrong? What if the cracks are the very thing that make you whole? There's an ancient Japanese art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired using gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, they are made visible, beautiful. The pottery is not just fixed, it is transformed. The flaws become part of the story, part of the beauty. And this isn't just art, it's life. When we break, we don't just fall apart, we open up. The broken pieces of us, the things we've been trying to hide, these are the things that make us stronger. The pain you've carried, the loneliness, the moments you thought you couldn't survive, these aren't marks of failure. They're the gold that will help you rebuild yourself. They're the proof that you survived. This is where the real healing begins, not in hiding your flaws, but in embracing them. Not in pretending you're perfect, but in understanding that your imperfections are the things that make you uniquely you. The cracks are your gold. The parts you tried to hide are the parts that need to be seen. It's through the cracks that the light enters. It's through those flaws that you'll find the strength to move forward, not despite them, but because of them. You've spent so long running from the broken parts of yourself, but now it's time to stop running. It's time to embrace them. Because when you do, you'll see something incredible. You'll see your own strength. You'll see your own beauty. And for the first time, you'll see that the parts of you that you thought were broken are what make you whole. There's a moment when the world stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like your life. You stop pretending to be someone you're not. You stop hiding the truth in order to fit in. And when that happens, something shifts in you. The mask falls away. And for the first time, you see yourself. You see the person who has been hiding under the surface all along. The one who felt too much, saw too much, cared too deeply. The person who wasn't afraid of their pain, but was afraid of how others would respond to it. The person who learned to silence their own voice because the world was too loud, too demanding, but no more. You are not broken. You were never broken. You were just waiting to be seen. And when you let go of the mask, when you let yourself be seen for who you really are, that's when the magic happens. You realize you've been enough all along. You've been whole all along. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. You don't need to be flawless to be valuable. You don't need to keep pretending to be someone you're not. Because the real you, the one who has been hiding, is enough. And here's the paradox. The parts of you that you thought were flaws, the pieces of you that you've been hiding, are the very things that make you whole. They are the source of your strength. They are the gold in your cracks. When you finally see yourself for who you really are, everything changes. No longer are you the person who needs to hide in order to survive. You are the person who can stand tall unapologetically with all your beauty, your flaws, your depth. This is the journey you've been on all along, the journey of discovering that the person you were always meant to be was never hidden beneath the mask. It's right there all along. And when you finally see yourself, when you embrace all that you are, the world will finally see you too. You'll stop being the one who is invisible and start being the one who is seen. Not because you've hidden less, but because you've revealed more. And that is the most beautiful thing of all.